flipping through the newspapers, switching through multiple news channels, exploring different websites and online mediums for relevant news? Keeping up to date with important news is not only time-consuming but also requires meticulous upkeep of notes for thorough revision. With a limited period in hand and abundant resources to study from, do not let current affairs come in the way of your prelims success. Join the PT 365 program by Vision IAS and advance in your preparation for current affairs. Starting on 9th January at 5 p.m., this 20-day course offers comprehensive coverage of 1 year of current affairs in 60 hours. Join for improved knowledge with complete coverage of The Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, Economic Times, Yojana, Economic Survey, etc. Doubt-clearing sessions and mentoring for thorough knowledge. Access to Sandhan personalized test with 25,000 plus questions. Access to live and online classes for flexibility in timing. It's time to devote your energy to smart learning and not running. Enroll today and excel in UPSC prelims with a strong command of current affairs.
Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. Rural Technology Action Group Smart Village Center launched in Mandora, Haryana. India-US Trust Transforming the Relationship Utilizing Strategic Technology initiative launched. India and USA announced Autonomous Systems Industry Alliance initiative for underwater domain awareness. External Affairs Minister of India attended 8th Indian Ocean Conference. India's first intertidal BioBlitz concluded recording several intertidal species. India aims for threefold increase in its textile exports to Rs 9 lakh crore by 2030, says Prime Minister. In the first news for the day, we bring you an exciting development in rural empowerment. The launch of the Rural Technology Action Group or RUTAGE Smart Village Center or RSVC in Mandora, Haryana. This initiative has been developed under the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor or PSA and is designed to bridge gap between cutting-edge technology and rural needs, enhancing quality of life and fostering sustainable development. Interestingly, the PSA conceptualized RUTAGE back in 2003-04, and now it has evolved into this impactful model. So, what makes this model stand out? Let's take a closer look. First, it offers a physical presence at the panchayat level, ensuring long-term technological support for 15 to 20 villages, with 12 technology tracks, including agriculture and waste management. It directly addresses rural challenges. Next, it focuses on market access. By collaborating with platforms like ONDC, Amazon, and Market Mirchi, rural producers can now connect with larger markets, helping them expand their reach and grow their businesses. And what about scalability? Well, plans are already in place to establish 20 new centers, further extending the benefits of this initiative. Additionally, the Techpreneurs program will specifically empower women entrepreneurs, ensuring long-term sustainability. Technology is a key driver of rural development, and this initiative is set to make a big impact. Let's explore how. In agriculture, platforms like eNAM are helping farmers secure better prices and ensure transparent trade. For entrepreneurs, innovations such as e-commerce and 3D printing are creating new opportunities, reducing dependency on imports and allowing small businesses to access global markets. Education is another crucial area. Programs like PM eVidya and Swayam are making quality learning accessible online, helping bridge the digital divide. Meanwhile, financial inclusion is being strengthened through initiatives like DBT or Direct Benefit Transfer and PM Jan Dhan Yojana, ensuring cashless transactions, reducing fraud and promoting transparency. And finally, in water management, the National Program on Aquifer Mapping and Management is using technology to monitor and manage groundwater resources, helping farmers optimize water usage efficiently. Alongside RUTAGE, several other initiatives are contributing to rural empowerment. One such initiative is the Technological Advancement for Rural Areas or TARA program, which is a part of the Skill Enhancement Education and Development program. It supports science-based organizations in implementing technology-driven solutions to improve rural livelihoods. Another major initiative is the eShram platform, which provides unorganized workers access to various government benefits and social security schemes, ensuring their financial and social well-being. The National Optical Fiber Network is playing a crucial role in enhancing digital connectivity by linking state capitals, districts, and 2.5 lakh gram panchayats, thereby improving internet bandwidth and accessibility for rural communities. Additionally, the Digital Land Records Modernization Program is working towards updating and modernizing land records. By developing a system tailored to state-specific requirements, this program ensures better management and transparency of land information, making property-related processes more efficient for rural citizens. Clearly, the Rotate Smart Village Center, along with these initiatives, is transforming India's rural landscape. With technology at its core, it promises a brighter and more sustainable future for villages across the country. A major step towards strengthening India-US technological collaboration has been announced, the India-US Trust Initiative. Trust, or Transforming the Relationship Utilizing Strategic Technology, was launched during the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Washington. This initiative aims to enhance cooperation in critical minerals, pharmaceuticals, advanced materials, and more. So, what makes this initiative so significant? Let's break it down. First, it encourages both public and private investments, boosting manufacturing capacity and generating jobs in both India and the US. Second, it facilitates exports by reducing barriers to technology transfer, addressing export controls, and enhancing high-tech commerce. Moving ahead, the initiative is set to build trusted and resilient supply chains for critical minerals, semiconductors, and active pharmaceutical ingredients, ensuring stability in these crucial sectors. A key aspect of trust is the focus on strategic minerals like lithium and rare earth elements, essential for diversifying supply chains and countering China's dominance in this space. Beyond supply chains, the initiative also fosters innovation. It brings together government bodies, academia, and private sector players to collaborate in cutting-edge fields like defense, artificial intelligence, and quantum technology. Additionally, it aligns with India's National Critical Mineral Mission, encouraging both public and private sector companies to acquire critical mineral assets abroad. Now, let's talk about critical minerals. These elements are the building blocks of modern technologies, but their supply chains are vulnerable due to limited global production and geopolitical factors. Why are they so important? Well, in defense, minerals like neodymium and samarium are crucial for high-performance magnets used in missiles, fighter jets, and radars. In the energy sector, lithium and cobalt power advanced batteries, playing a key role in energy storage and electric vehicles. And in the medical field, elements like europium and terbium enhance biotech imaging and medical diagnostics. Now, let's take a look at key India-US initiatives in this space. Strategic Mineral Recovery Initiative focuses on recovering and processing critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, and rare earths from heavy industries like aluminium, coal mining, and oil and gas. Mineral Security Partnership, or MSP, a US-led collaboration of 14 countries and the EU to enhance investment in critical mineral supply chains. India became a part of this initiative in 2023. Mineral Security Finance Network initiative under MSP, a joint financing body established to fund global critical minerals project. India joined this initiative in 2024. With these advancements, the India-US Trust Initiative, along with these key collaborations, is set to reshape high-tech partnerships and global supply chains.
In a significant announcement from the recent India-US collaboration, both nations have launched the Autonomous Systems Industry Alliance, or Asia Initiative, to enhance underwater domain awareness, or UDA. This initiative, announced during the Indian Prime Minister's visit to the USA, aims to strengthen industry partnerships and production in the Indo-Pacific region. Notably, India is the first country with whom the USA has offered to work with on UDA technologies. Now, what is UDA? It is a maritime concept involving technology, strategies, and policies to monitor everything under the sea. For India, UDA holds immense significance, enhancing regional security by addressing piracy, terrorism, and interstate conflicts through detection of possible security risks and prompt responses. It also promotes economic and sustainability interests through opportunities in the blue economy and environmental management, while fostering regional diplomacy by building trust and cooperation in the maritime domain. Talking about the technology, UDA utilizes unmanned underwater vehicles or UUVs, including remotely operated and autonomous UVs equipped with advanced sensors and cameras. India has developed UUVs like Maya, Amog, and Adamya. Additionally, acoustic surveillance plays a key role with sonar systems, sonobuoys, and sea picket autonomous surveillance systems. India's BEL has signed an agreement for co-production of multi-static active or MSA sonobuoys with USA's Ultra Maritime and for active towed array sonar systems with USA's L3 Harris. Another critical technology is light detection and ranging or LiDAR. Bathymetric LiDAR uses water-penetrating green light to measure seafloor and riverbed elevations. But there are some key challenges for UDA. Reliance on foreign technology poses issues with dependability, delays, and compatibility. Specialized acoustic requirements present challenges due to tropical environments and underwater topography. Additionally, lack of coordination hampers cooperation efficiency among maritime security agencies. Moving on, the External Affairs Minister of India recently attended the 8th Indian Ocean Conference, an event initiated by the India Foundation in 2016 in Singapore with participation from 30 countries. This conference has become a flagship consultative forum for Indian Ocean Region or IOR countries, focusing on regional cooperation for security and growth for all in the region or SAGAR. Let's take a closer look. India plays a crucial role in the IOR as a first responder during crises. India helps in stabilizing economies under stress, such as Sri Lanka, and quickly provides aid during disasters and conflicts through supply of essential items such as medicines, vaccines, fuel, and fertilizers. India also leads regional connectivity projects such as IMEC, IMTT, and INSTC. Additionally, India encourages plurilateral cooperation by focusing on maritime security and disaster management cooperation through Quad, Recap Center in Singapore, International Maritime Fusion Center, and wide shipping agreements. India's maritime deployments in the Northern Arabian Sea and Gulf of Aden further enhance regional security. Institutional building efforts through the Indian Ocean Rim Association or IORA, Indian Ocean Naval Synopsium or IONS, and Colombo Security Conclave highlight India's commitment to the region. But why is IOR significant for India? The Indian Ocean is significant for India's economic interest, supporting 80% of its external trade, 90% of energy imports, and key fishing and tourism industries. Strategically, India aims to maintain the IOR as a zone of peace, economic prosperity, and maritime sustainability through strengthening of ties with neighbors. India's central location in IOR gives it a significant role in controlling critical maritime choke points, including Suez Canal, Bab el-Mandeb, Strait of Hormuz, and Strait of Malacca, among others.
In the next news, we bring you an important update on India's first intertidal BioBlitz, a remarkable citizen science initiative that has just concluded, recording several intertidal species along our coastline. Conducted jointly by the Coastal Conservation Foundation and the East Coast Conservation Team, this initiative aimed to document the rich biodiversity of India's intertidal zones, and it has already made a groundbreaking discovery. A flatworm species, Pseudoceros bifacia, has been recorded for the first time from mainland India, specifically along the Andhra Pradesh coast. But what exactly is the intertidal zone? Well, it is the dynamic boundary where the ocean meets land. This unique area experiences constant change, submerged during high tide and exposed to air where the tide recedes. Surviving here is no small feat. Any species that calls the intertidal zone home must be highly adaptable to fluctuations in moisture, temperature, and salinity, not to mention the impact of strong waves. Now, let's break down the intertidal zones based on how often they are submerged. Spray zone. This area remains mostly moist from wind-blown spray and wave splashes. It may get submerged during storms. You will find small barnacles, lichen, periwinkle snails, and limpets here. High intertidal zone, submerged only at peak high tides. This is the hottest, driest, and most saline zone. Only the hardiest marine animals survive, including certain algae, marine snails, and shore crabs. Middle intertidal zone, the space between the average high and low tides where animals must adapt to constant changes between air exposure and immersion. Seagrasses, anemones, and gobies thrive in this region. Low intertidal zone, almost always submerged except at peak low tides. This zone is home to the most diverse range of species, including sea urchins, sea stars, coral, nudibranchs, and octopuses. Now, why are intertidal zones so important? For one, they serve as essential breeding grounds for marine life, providing protected nurseries for juvenile fish and crustaceans. Not just that, these zones act as natural buffers against coastal erosion, absorbing wave energy and stabilizing shorelines. They also play a key role in primary production, facilitating the flow of energy and nutrients between terrestrial and marine ecosystems. Additionally, intertidal zones contribute to carbon sequestration, making them crucial in the fight against climate change. However, these ecosystems are under constant threat. Climate change, with its intensifying storms, rising sea levels, and increasing temperatures, poses a serious risk, potentially leading to species die-offs and disruptions across the entire food chain. Human activities further exacerbate the situation, from oil spills and beach tourism to harvesting, pollution, and coastal development. With initiatives like the Intertidal BioBlitz, efforts to document and understand this delicate ecosystem gain momentum, but the responsibility to protect it lies with all of us.
Moving on to a major announcement from the Prime Minister, India aims to triple its textile exports to Rs 9 lakh crore by 2030. Addressing Bharat Tex 2025 at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi, the Prime Minister expressed confidence that this target can be achieved even earlier with the vision of the 5 Fs: farm, fiber, fabric, fashion, and foreign. Speaking of Bharat Tex 2025, it is the textile industry's premier event, featuring a comprehensive mega expo that showcases the entire textile value chain from raw materials and accessories to finished products under one roof. Now, let's take a look at the status of the textile sector. According to the Economy Survey 2024-25, the textiles and apparel industry contributes 2.3% to the country's GDP, 13% to industrial production, and 12% to exports. It is also one of the largest employment generators after agriculture, with over 45 million people directly employed. India stands as the 6th largest exporter of textiles and apparel globally, and the 2nd largest producer of textiles and garments as per CII data. However, challenges remain. The textile sector faces expensive raw material costs, with fiber constituting 60 to 70% of manufacturing costs, which has become expensive in India. Pollution is another concern, with clothing manufacturing contributing over 10% of the world's carbon emissions, making it the 2nd largest industrial polluter. Structural challenges include a highly fragmented industry with many MSME players, lack of product diversification, and lower productivity compared to competitors like China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. To address these challenges, the government has launched several initiatives. The Mission for Cotton Productivity, announced in the Union Budget 2025-26, aims to enhance productivity and sustainability in cotton farming. The Scheme for Capacity Building in Textile Sector, or SAMARTH scheme, has been launched to incentivize and supplement efforts of industry in creating jobs in the organized textile and related sectors. The Scheme for Integrated Textiles Park provides world-class infrastructure facilities for setting up textile units. Additionally, GI tagging has been promoted for handloom products like Uppada Jamdani saris, Muga silk of Assam, and Kashmir Pashmina. In today's place in news, we turn our attention to Lebanon with its capital in Beirut. Recently, Lebanon condemned an attack on a United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon or UNIFIL convoy in Beirut. Let's take a closer look at the political and geographical features of the country. Lebanon is a narrow strip of territory in the Levant region of West Asia, bordered by Syria to the north and east, Israel to the south, and the Mediterranean Sea along its western coast. The country is known for its significant geographical features, including the Litani, Orontes, and Baalbek rivers. The highest peak is Kurnet al Sauda, while the Bekaa Valley or Al Bekaa is a major valley. The Lebanon Mountains, Jabal Lubnan, and Hermon ranges are prominent mountain ranges in the region.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. The multilateral naval exercise Komodo has started in Bali, Indonesia. Exercise Komodo is aimed at enhancing maritime interoperability and regional security cooperation. Additionally, INS Shardul and the Long Range Maritime Surveillance (PATI) aircraft will participate in it. Meta has introduced its world's largest undersea cable system, Project Waterworth. Project Waterworth has a length of 50,000 kilometers, and this subsea cable will connect 5 continents, enhancing connectivity between the US, India, Brazil, South Africa, and the other regions. In terms of depth, the cable will reach up to 7,000 meters in deep waters. According to a study, loggerhead turtles can learn and remember the magnetic signature of different geographic regions. They have large heads with powerful jaws and inhabit subtropical and temperate waters in the Atlantic, Pacific, and the Indian Oceans, as well as the Mediterranean Sea. The Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, in collaboration with the World Health Organization for Animal Health, or WOAH, has set a roadmap for public-private partnerships in the livestock sector. WOAH, headquartered in Paris, France, is an intergovernmental organization founded in 1924. Researchers have discovered a new type of brain cell named ovoid cells. Ovoid cells are a type of neuron that plays a fundamental role in recognition memory, the process by which the brain differentiates between new and familiar objects and forms long-term memories. IIT Kanpur has developed an innovative solar dehydration technology aimed at preserving agricultural produce using sustainable energy. Solar dehydration technology is a process that uses sunlight to remove moisture from food, allowing farmers to preserve fruits and vegetables for longer periods through solar energy. Recently, researchers have detected high-energy cosmic neutrinos under the Mediterranean Sea. Neutrinos are subatomic particles, often called ghost particles, that have zero electrical charge, zero size, almost zero mass, and almost zero interaction. A new study has uncovered a significant pause in coral reef growth in the Gulf of Aqaba during the late Holocene period. The Gulf of Aqaba, also known as the Gulf of Eilat, is located in northeastern extension of the Red Sea, penetrating between the Arabian Peninsula and the Sinai Peninsula. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.